Is the start of a story important? The obvious answer is yes, but you can get stories that are very good that do not necessarily open particularly strong. And that's fine, but when you have a mystery story, the opening is exceptionally important. The reason for this is very obvious. You want the audience to ask questions from the get-go that orient them toward a curiosity for what is to come. You need the audience to want to start their guessing because half the fun in a mystery is trying to figure it out before you have all the information. The ending of a mystery is also very important, but it's important because of the opening. The ending needs to be satisfying for the mystery to be complete, but that satisfying ending requires a compelling start. And Disco Elysium has both a compelling start and a satisfying conclusion. Everything in between is also great, and the game also happens to have some of the best writing around, which is nice. Now the thing about Disco Elysium is that it is obviously more than just a mystery. It is a narrative-driven, world-building oriented, dialogue-centric RPG that has many components worth exploring. However, at its core, the central narrative is the attempt to unravel the mystery of the dead man left hanging outside the Whirling in Rags bar and hostel. However, that mystery is also tied up in the mystery of who you are as a person, and that is where Disco Elysium chooses to open. This game is a true masterclass in setting up a mystery, and I think it's worth briefly touching on several of the major elements that led to it being such a compelling way to start up a mystery. The very first thing the game does after you have selected your character's attributes is the game's opening monologue. It is jarring, disturbing, and speaks more in emotional rather than grounded terms. We immediately learn the feeling that this world is going for. We know no facts at this point. The intentional lack of information is paramount to the success of Disco Elysium's opening. This opening monologue tells us nothing other than how our protagonist feels at the moment. And even then, it is disjointed as different voices clash with one another over the interpretation of certain terrible feelings. This lack of information leads to an overall sense of disorientation. The use of disorientation is another important aspect of the mystery that Disco Elysium is trying to present to us. Disorientation and confusion can serve as a powerful means of establishing a fictional world. The actual problem that our protagonist faces in this game is one that is essentially a cliché in gaming. He has amnesia. However, the way it is presented, in which he is very specifically confused via chemical means to the point where he does not even know his name, or even what he looks like, is unique. Most games that use an amnesiac protagonist do so because they want your character to be central to the plot but have no memory of why they are central to the plot. And this means that it can come across as somewhat lazy. You're very important to the story, but you don't know why. However, in Disco Elysium, the choice to have your character have a very physical manifestation of disorientation in the form of a blistering hangover means that we have an instant grounding for this amnesia. In the game, you never really regain your full memory, but instead learn pieces of yourself along the way, until a big revelation occurs near the end of the game. However, at the start, this disorientation even enters the gameplay. You obviously have no idea what you can really do when you start playing, but you basically start to get dressed once the game starts. It's something seemingly simple. In relation to this, a great encapsulation of the game's lack of information and pursuit of disorientation can be found in the game's opening use of the fan. Many players, myself included, died within 5 minutes of playing Disco Elysium. The reason for it is simple. We tried to get our tie from a moving ceiling fan, failed the roll to determine our success, and basically had a heart attack. When you are willing to hit the player this early in the game with a death, you set up the tone of your narrative. You can die from something stupid because you're so hungover that you can't even succeed at retrieving a tie from a ceiling fan. This only heightens our desire to understand what the hell is going on in this game. And from here, the game's final aspect of the opening's brilliance is in the use of the world itself. The world in Disco Elysium is not our world, but it is closely related to ours. It has the same problems as our world, and we can understand the reason that it is laid out the way that it is. But it's just a little bit off. That slightly off status of this fictional world means that there is always a level of fundamental intrigue. Because you will always think to yourself, how is it the same as our world and how is it different? All of this sets us up for the mystery to follow. This early on, you don't even know the reason you are in this place. You don't even know about the murder victim you're meant to be investigating. All you know is that you are hungover, completely clueless, and stuck in a world that is just a little off. Those first few minutes are the perfect hook. The perfect means of getting you to want to explore the rest of this world. And I would say that if Disco Elysium doesn't catch you within its first few minutes, I don't think it'll catch you later. So much of it is predicated on wanting to understand the mystery that a player being uninterested in it would be a death sentence for their enjoyment. The game has a fun and intriguing opening that uses common gaming tropes but places them within an unfamiliar context. And that is a fantastic way to open a mystery. Few have done it quite as well as Disco Elysium.